Hi everyone, my name is Ezrika and I want to welcome you back to my channel. And if this is your first time here, I'm so very excited that you could join me today. And today we're going to be talking about depression and anxiety. And I just want to say that no, I am not a professional. I don't have technical training on this matter. And also I'm not coming to you as someone that has it all together. I don't have all the answers, not even for myself, but I am coming to you as someone with a story and someone with my truth and a hope that maybe my experiences and the things that I've learned can be helpful to you. So let's get right into it. I'm pretty hopelessly optimistic. I just love life. I love people. I love serving. I love laughing. I love being goofy. But all of those traits doesn't shield you from experiencing depression. And for me, depression hit hard. It doesn't just hit me hard. If you are struggling with depression or you have struggled with depression, it hits you hard too. Those moments when you don't think you can leave your room, when social situations become just the greatest of triggers, when your thoughts take you to dark places and darker still, like this overwhelming pain that not only affects your day to day, but you feel it in your body, you feel it in your appetite. Friends around you are trying to do their best to help you, but there's nothing that can be done because you don't even know. You don't even know what would make it better. And I find as a believer, it's almost taboo to have depression because you're supposed to be able to pray it away or go to church and it's all better or sing praises. And I think that's 100% crap because that's not always the case. And a lot of times the things that pull us down, the things that cause us to go through these periods of depression or this lifetime of depression, it comes from places within us that we've hidden. It comes from deep-rooted issues and traumas from our childhood and feelings of being unworthy and unloved or watching our parents fight. There's just so much to it. So praying it away, it's not that simple. It's not as simple as just being like, hey God, I need your help. And okay, now it's fixed. There's a process and there's a journey. One of the biggest questions that I asked when I was just struggling with my own thing in my own life was, what the heck, God? Do you care that I am depressed? Do you care that I'm struggling, that I'm failing, that I'm experiencing high levels of disappointment, that my anxiety is through the roof? Do you care? And that's a real question because it is hard. It's hard when the walls of life are crashing in on you. It's hard when you have to muster the strength to make it through a second, to make it through a minute. And those moments when it feels like, God, you can fix this. You really can fix this. You can heal my mother. You can help me to pass this school. Like, why am I in grad school if I'm gonna be failing? You can fix this relationship. You can fix my finances. You can fix it. So why the heck haven't you fixed it? And I've learned, or I am learning. I'm learning that the darkest places I got were in the moments that I gave up believing that God cared about me. Because it's one thing to even just question if other human beings care about you. Like, does this person care about me? Do these people care that I'm suffering? But as a believer, you kind of put a lot on God. I mean, as we should. If he doesn't care about me, what else do I have to look forward to? A story that comes to my mind is the story of Elijah. So Elijah was a prophet. He was one of the most prolific and well-known prophets in the Old Testament. And this particular story comes from 1 Kings. And around the time of Elijah, there was King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. Jezebel was probably absolutely gorgeous, but she also had a wicked heart. Jezebel had no regards for God. She did not care about his name, his law. In fact, when she married Ahab, one of the first things she did was to build a temple for Baal. Ahab, who was a follower of God, did evil in the sight of the Lord because of his wife. Again, that destiny is a team sport kind of thing. And another thing is, Jezebel was notorious for killing the prophets of God. She was just out here just slaying God's people. So Elijah kind of has enough. So he gathers all the prophets of Baal and tell them to come to Mount Carmel. And there he intends to prove to these wayward people that God is God. Whichever God causes fire to burn up the sacrifice, then they're the one true God. So the prophets of Baal, they're like, bet, let's do this. And they cut up the bull, put it on the altar, and they're literally like praying and chanting and cutting themselves for hours and hours. By noon, Elijah starts feeling himself. He's like, y'all, maybe your God is asleep. Maybe he went to the restroom to relieve himself. Maybe you need to shout louder. So now the prophets of Baal are doing the most. Again, just screaming and harming themselves just to get their God's attention, and it doesn't work. Flip the script. Now it's Elijah's turn. Elijah cuts up the 2 bulls, puts it on the altar, but then Elijah tells him, he's like, yo, go get pitchers of water. So then he drenches his bull with lots and lots of water. In 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 36 and 37, Elijah pretty much prays like, God, let them know that you are the one true God and you are winning their hearts back to you. And lo and behold, fire comes down from heaven and burns up the altar and dries up the water. The prophets of Baal fall down like, yo, this is the one true God. And Elijah's like, well, of course he is. But he ends up killing them. After that happened, Ahab, who actually is like a special kind of spineless to me, he goes and tells Jezebel about what happens, and Jezebel is upset. And she sends a messenger to Elijah saying, may the gods deal ever so unkindly with me if by tomorrow you're not dead. And Elijah could have honestly been like, which God are you talking about exactly? Like, which God you talking about? The one your prophets just prayed to all day and nothing happened? But instead of taking that stance, Elijah ran. He ran for his life, all because little floozy Jezebel threatened him. It's crazy because Elijah just saw the might of God, but a day later, dude is fully ready to die. He wishes he could no longer exist. So what God does for Elijah, he feeds him, tells him to take a nap. He feeds him a couple of times actually, and then takes him to the top of the mountain. And again, Elijah's in a place where he's like, I actually just don't want to live. I don't want to be here anymore. I can't do this. So first, God asks Elijah a question. He says, what are you doing here, Elijah? And I take that question as like, what's going on? Like, what made you run for your life? It's like one of those, it's a soul searching question. Like, what led you to this point where you are so afraid for your life that you had to run away? And then God does something spectacular. He says, go stand by the edge of the mountain in the presence of the Lord, because the Lord is going to pass by. So Elijah's at the edge of the mountain, and then comes this massive, massive wind. But God is not in this wind. Then comes an earthquake that rocks the mountain, but God isn't in the massive earthquake. Then comes a fire, but God isn't in the fire. And then comes a still small voice. And that's where God is found. Spoiler alert, the story ends super good for Elijah. He's okay. Jezebel ends up dying. She gets eaten by dogs. Elijah gets translated to heaven on like a fiery chariot. So this story ends very well for Elijah, but we can learn a lesson about how God deals with our moments of brokenness, how God deals with our depression and our anxiety. Does God care? Well, first of all, when Elijah ran, God followed him. God gave him sustenance and told him to rest. Then he comes to him and asks him, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Then he shows himself to Elijah in the tenderest way, a whisper. Think about a whisper. You have to be really proximate to someone for a whisper to be meaningful. Like, you don't whisper to someone across the room. They won't get that. You whisper to someone who's right next to you. God came and showed him tenderness. I've found that when it comes to depression and anxiety, as with every single thing in our life, the answer to the question, does God care, is an emphatic yes. Earlier this year, I bought my iPhone, and I didn't pay for it on a payment plan. I just bought it one time. So because I knew how much money I was spending on it, I was looking for cases, because the way I'm set up, I actually would be the person to drop that phone the same day I get it. But I was like, no, not today, saying you're not playing with me. And in the process of looking for cases, you find that some cases are really expensive also. And naturally, when the phone is not that great, or I haven't paid that much for the phone, I'm not paying that much for the phone case. But because I paid so much for my phone, I remember thinking I will spare no expense getting a phone case to protect it. And as I was purchasing the phone, and as that thought came to my mind, Romans 8:32, where it says, he that spared not his son, but gave it all up for us, how would he not freely give us all things? That verse made sense in that moment, because me being I didn't hold back in paying for my phone. And I'm not holding back in paying for this phone case to protect my phone. God didn't hold back in giving the most pricey and expensive thing he could to ensure our joy and our safety and a purposeful life back then. So why now would he hold back in giving us everything so that we can live that life of joy and peace and contentment? It makes no sense. Basically, what I'm saying is God has already given up so much for us. He's not going to stop now. He's not just going to be like, oh, well, you're depressed, figure it out. Figure it out. He's not going to do that. That makes zero sense. He's already invested so much in us and given us his son. He's not stopping at this point. There's honestly so much that could be said about this topic. I could tell you about how I learned to seek and find my northern stars, the little hints of God's love and his watch care over me in people, in devotions, in sermons, in songs. I could tell you how I had to learn to be still and allow myself to dive deep and time travel to my past to find the origin of my pain. But the biggest thing I want to tell you is this. In all of this process, the question of does God care led me to literally learn to seek to understand, not just what I've been taught in church or by my mama and daddy, but for myself, what the love of God means. Because the more I understood how much God loved me, the less scared I was of the future, the less I was burdened by the things that broke my heart or that confused me or the things that tormented me. The more I learned about God's love, the more I could trust him. The more I could trust him, the less I had to figure everything out on my own because I knew that God had it. I want you to know this, wherever you are now, if you are in a place where you are close to your end, where you feel like you need to give up, I want to validate that. Your pain is real. Your pain is real, it's authentic, and it's tough what you're going through. But you are loved, you are known, and you are seen. Every tear you cry, every word of confusion you utter, every pain in your heart, it's noticed by God. And so what if something you try to do is instead of trying to figure out whatever the situation is that is pulling you down, you shift your focus to trying to figure out just how much God loves you. I know that's something that is helping me. I promise you, I'm not all the way through it. I still have high days, I still have low days, but learning to put my focus on figuring out just how much God loves me. Learning to take myself to the foot of the cross and just look at God dying there and saying to myself, he's dying to be with me. And if he's willing to die just so that I could have an abundant life, why is he going to stop now? Why is he going to hold back? Why is he going to just all of a sudden leave me alone? Try to look for the love of God. Try to learn of this love of God. And I hope and I think that can make a big difference in your mental health and your peace. So does God care? With every fiber of my being, I say yes. Even though I know there are times that I don't feel it. I don't understand it, but I'm learning to trust it. Guys, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and listening today. I hope this can help you. I really do. Share this with a friend that may be going through something really difficult. Like this if you like this, and don't forget to subscribe. I love you guys so very much, and know this. You are in my prayers, even though I don't know your name, may not have ever met you. I am praying for you as you journey through this moment in life. I love you guys, and God bless.